absolutely boggles my mind that the Epstein files come out, and now all of these TikTokers that I've seen are essentially saying things like, so now that we've discovered that the people running the world are pedophilic billionaires, what's even the point of living anymore? I'm like, what in the hell are you talking about? You didn't know this already? I don't know, maybe it's sad that I knew this. I've known this for a very long time. My red pill cherry was popped at quite a young age. Unfortunately, maybe, possibly. Much younger than most people's red pill cherries are popped. Mine was popped at 16, or around 16, 17. Maybe even sooner. Oh my God, my red pill cherry was popped when 9/11 happened, honestly. And I was 8 years old. I was 8 years old when 9/11 happened. Now, don't get me wrong, it took maybe like 3 years to really have that red pill cherry popped. Because, yes, when I was 8 years old, the story was what it was, which is that, Afghanistan, Iraq, we were at war. And it was their doing. It was their fault. They're the ones that flew the planes into the buildings. And that was the story. Even as a child, you kind of understand it, to the best of your abilities. But then, of course, my dad, a huge conspiracy theorist, well, he was a huge conspiracy theorist, not much anymore. He came out 3 years later with a documentary called Loose Change. And he would not stop playing it. He played it over and over and over again. And I gotta tell you, even as a 12-year-old, that shit was pretty clear cut. Pretty clear cut. I think one of the things that was pretty damning to me was that obviously you could see the explosives going off in the buildings that were obviously put there. And they were going off even after the plane had hit. And to me, that footage was very telling. And not only that, very obvious. And that's just one piece of evidence into how I was pretty much red-pilled. Kind of forced into it, honestly, because even beyond 9/11, my dad would constantly shove alien stuff down our throats, talking about aliens, talking about the end of the world. He was a huge 2012 guy, so he was constantly talking about how the world was going to end in 2012, and I was scared out of my goddamn mind. But not only that, my brother was into, the Illuminati shit, how celebrities and movies and all of that is designed to hypnotize you into this kind of satanic world, right? And of course, I'm very young at this time. Still 16, 17, 18 years old or whatever. So I guess my cherry was popped at 12. Whoa, wait a second. My red pill cherry was popped at 12. And my Illuminati cherry was popped at 16. And then of course it takes you a while to actually digest it and to actually believe it. So for me, I don't think I actually really started to understand this stuff. Well, I would say until 2020, it really started to sink in, but maybe even a little bit before then. And let's see, how old was I? 6 years ago. I I don't know, I was like 26 or 27. So it took me about another 10 years for it to really have an impact. And for me to really start to comprehend it. Because what's the reason it took so long? Well, your stomach starts to flip, right? I'm on the ice now, so I'm going to start to slip. My stomach starts to flip, and then I start to slip. So your stomach doesn't feel very good when you find out this information. This is not like, oh, yay. Yeah, we're living in a world built off of satanic values. How lovely. Even in your young mind, you know what that means. That everything is a lie. Everything you know is a lie. Your favorite celebrity, satanic. Your favorite movie, satanic. Whee! Oh God, maybe I should get off of this. But yeah, pretty much, in general, everything you know is a lie. So therefore, you don't feel very good after learning that stuff. So you just kind of, for me at least, I just wanted to kind of go back to normal life and say, yeah, sure. Everything's satanic, But then after 2020, for me it just popped off, you know. Started watching people a lot more like Jeff Berwick, Alex Jones, reading David Icke's books. And believe me, I look at this stuff with an air of skepticism. Absolutely. I'm not just like, yes, I believe everything and like, feed me. No, I look at things with an air of skepticism, and I always try to hold my own thoughts when looking into this stuff or listening to other people talk about it. I always try to have my own thoughts about it. But I gotta tell you, a lot of it just clicks. A lot of it just makes sense. And that's the scary part. That's the part where people are like, and now I want to stop reading about this not because it sounds far-fetched, but because it sounds far-fetched and it makes sense and the puzzle pieces are clicking together. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Why is it so hard for people to swallow hard truths? Because I'm 32 years old. I consider that to be fairly a mature age, like an age where you as a human being should be able to understand the world, understand yourself. That's why I've made this channel, because I understand the world and I understand myself. So I want to teach others how to do that, because I saw a missing piece in society where it seems like people just don't know how to do that. Even when they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s, it seems like people are still in their little comfort zones. And it inspired me to make this video because I was curious about kind of the psychology on it. I feel bad for these people. You know, it's not like, oh, I'm better than you because I know something you don't know. It's not like that. It's more like these people are living in a world that they don't know the truth about. They don't know the truth about the world that they're living in. They just go to the store every day, buy their groceries, and listen to their mainstream music, and listen to their mainstream media, and fawn over their favorite celebrities, and go to their stupid 9-to-5 jobs without a thought in the world of what is actually going on. And why do I think it's important to know what's actually going on? Because I care about truth. I think truth matters. I think if you're living in a lie, you know, that affects your choices. And I think when you're living in truth, that also affects your choices, in turn affecting your life. I think your life could actually improve if you swallow hard truths. If you learn how to swallow hard truths about this world. And I think more people are going to be red-pilled. I think people will be stepping away from the two-party system. Because like someone said before, someone had mentioned, this is no longer left versus right. It's now libertarian versus authoritarian. The left has almost become this authoritarian force, while everybody else, MAGA or otherwise, is now libertarian. We just want freedom, we want peace, we want liberty. Constitution, law and order, whatever. And the left wants destruction. They want to destroy the system. Anyway, now I'm going on a ramble, so welcome to Treu Sovereignty, where we ramble a lot. Just kidding, where we master our minds so we can reclaim our peace. And on this channel, we intertwine self-improvement and critical thinking because you can't have one without the other. Like what I was just saying. If you don't understand yourself, how do you understand the world around you? You can't. So, that's what I teach. I teach you how to understand yourself so you can understand the world around you. And in turn, live a much better, much more peaceful life. A life where you actually have autonomy over yourself. Now, when you join this channel, you join a community. You don't just join me. So, look at my community, watch us grow, and be a part of it. Let's get into the video. So, number one, why is it hard for people to swallow hard truths about life? Because their identity is attached to their ideas. So that means their ego is attached to their ideologies. So anytime you challenge their thoughts or challenge what they believe, they take that as an attack. They think that you are attacking them, who they are, and they cannot handle that. They can't handle the criticism. Because when you have a weak sense of self, you are incredibly defensive. You will fall for anything when you have a weak sense of self. Any group that takes you in, especially under the guise of we're on the right side of the history, they fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker. This is how authoritarianism happens, because weak-minded people fall for these very wide-stretched, these very generalized ideas, especially about certain groups of people. For the Holocaust, World War II, it was the Jews. And right now, it's for pretty much anyone except minorities. So people really hating on white people, even though overall white people in the world are a minority. So maybe not in the United States, but in terms of the entire world, white people are a minority. But these are the things they get wrong. These are the nuances that they miss. They miss nuance because they're too busy focused on the problem that's being told to them by some sort of authoritarian leader or cult leader. That's why it seems like a cult, because they'll just listen to anything that the cult person has to say. And these people are weak. They're weak-minded. They don't have the strength to stop and say, wait a second, this doesn't seem right. And believe me, I used to be there. I used to be, not for a very long time, mind you, but I was a liberal at one point, and I stopped being a liberal right before the big woke bullshit took off, because I started questioning it. And then what happened when I questioned it? I started getting attacked, and I was like, wait a second, this isn't right. This isn't right. So I was fairly young and impressionable, where they had me enough to be like, yes, I'm a liberal, yes, I want equality, I feel bad for minorities, and things like that. They pulled at my heartstrings a little bit. But then they lost me as soon as I started questioning them. Like, wait a second, that doesn't sound right. I'm evil because I'm white. I'm inherently evil because I'm white. You know, that's not correct. They lost me at that. And so I totally left the party, but now that I've actually gained a strong sense of self, now that I've left the party and I've grown up, I've done a lot of growing up, I've had so many ego-shattering moments, so many, where you'd call it an ego death, but I don't like to call it that because I don't think it's a true death of your ego. I think it's ego-shattering, where your ego shatters into a million pieces. And I also wouldn't call it like being humbled, although for lack of a better phrase, I will say, yes, I've been humbled so many times. Not just in my thoughts and my ideologies, but just in life in general. I have been humbled so many fucking times. I've been told I'm wrong and been shown that I'm wrong by the universe, by life, whatever you believe, so many times. I have been brought to my knees so many times, not even by the doing of my own actions and choices and consequences, just by life showing me that it's not a very friendly place. But not only that, I've had my ideas challenged a lot. I'm used to my ideas being challenged. And, you know, after having your ideas constantly being challenged, you get used to it. You absolutely get used to it. You no longer look at being correct as like an ego boost. You now look at learning as more important than being correct, right? So I no longer look to be right. I look to learn. I look to progress. And lastly, you know, when you grow up, you just learn to take accountability, right? There's absolutely no excuse as you start to grow up to not take accountability for yourself, for your life, for your actions, for the things that have gone wrong in your life. When you start to take accountability, everything else just kind of follows. Your life gets better. Your ideas start to change. And authoritarianism is actually the opposite of accountability. Authoritarianism is like, let's blame everybody else for our problems. And, you know, seek to destroy the source of that problem, the source of said problem. Let's go destroy it. And it's just pure destruction. So instead of taking accountability, realizing it takes two to tango. Even if you've ended up in a toxic relationship or an abusive relationship, you decided to be with that person. You decided to ignore the red flags. And then you decided to stay with them. You always have to question yourself in every situation. Even if a situation was entirely somebody else's fault, if it involved you, you played a part, you played a role. And that is true accountability. And that's what creates a strong sense of self. Number 2, the ultimate fear of being ostracized. Wanting to be a part of something, anything. This kind of goes along with the weak sense of self. It's one of those consequences of having a weak sense of self where you need to belong to something or else you are nothing. This is why people with narcissistic personality disorder, it's impossible for them to have a sense of self. Impossible. It is possible for everybody to have a sense of self except for narcissists. And I'm talking about actual NPDs, like with the personality disorder, not just traits. Actual narcissists cannot develop a sense of self. So what do they need? They need something called supply. And this supply is people, groups, communities, anybody that sees them, could even be an online community, anybody who sees them, and that's essentially proof that they exist. That is proof that they are a real person with meaning and with purpose. The ironic part about narcissists, though, is that they tend to seek to destroy their own supply. They get high on their own supply. So, narcissists are another whole they're another whole discussion topic, but it's very similar and it's a good analogy, so that's why I brought it up. Most people will just nod and go along so they don't create conflict. And we all do that to a certain extent, right? We do it at our job. We do it at family gatherings. We do it in appropriate moments. We filter ourselves so we do not cause conflict where conflict doesn't need to be. But though some of us will do that out of pure etiquette in some small moments here and there, many people will do that 24/7, all the time. They don't even have a self, to the point where they don't even have a self, because the opposite of that is being authentic and just being yourself. And, you know, they just can't do it. So believe me, I've been there. You know, when I was a liberal, I did have to kind of smile and nod, smile and nod. Ah, yes. I tell the story about a girl I went on a date with. You know, this was like 10 years ago. And she started telling me about all these, like, language barriers now that there were. Like, I couldn't say the word crazy because it was mean. It was, like, ableist. Because using the term crazy or using the term insane was rude towards people who had mental illness. And I wasn't allowed to say those words because we were just talking. I was like, oh yeah, that's crazy. Wow. And she was like, you shouldn't say that. I was like, what? And at the time I smiled and I nodded and I was like, oh, I didn't know that, because I hadn't heard of that shit before. That was like alien to me. So I was just like, oh, interesting. You know, today I'd be like, you sound like a fucking retard. How's that for PC? And then I never would have seen her again. Which is definitely interesting. Which definitely would have been an more interesting story to tell. But sorry, there is no more interesting story to tell on that one. I just smiled and I nodded. And that's what a lot of people do. But I don't do that anymore. As you can see, I have this YouTube channel. I don't really give a shit what people think about me. But it gives me a lot of freedom. Yes, am I on my own island? Can I find myself kind of alone in my thoughts? Yes, but I do find other people that are very parallel. You know, they might not think incredibly similar to me, but they may not think exactly like me, but they think fairly similarly enough where we can see where each other is coming from. And you can find people like that. So I do find myself on an island a lot of the time. My last video was about ICE and how I support ICE. But unfortunately, a lot of people that think like I do, you know, whether they're libertarian, anarchist, nationalist, I think I'm actually more nationalist now. Now that I've done some research. But people who tend to think like me, where we don't like the government and we think politicians are a bunch of pieces of shit. Ooh, they miss the nuance of why we need ICE and why we need officers and police officers, why we need law and order. They miss that nuance. They miss that. They miss that logic because they want to just plaster this idea that every single authority is bad. And I mean, it's all about balance, people. I try to live my life in a balance. And so for some reason, I lost a lot of subscribers because of that video. Because people like to just paint over everything logical so it fits their own ideology, so it fits their box. I'm an anarchist, so I can't believe that we do need authority and we do need policemen, even though it makes logical sense, right? It does make logical sense. So yeah, I just think for myself, and it gets me into trouble a lot, unfortunately. People don't like people who think for themselves, so it's definitely not a ticket to a social party or social success, I would say. Thinking for yourself is not a... Uh-oh, the ice is cracking. Uh-oh. It's definitely not a ticket for social success. You know, it's not like, oh, good, you're thinking for yourself. Here's all these friends. No. It's more like, oh, you're thinking for yourself? Good job. Now, all the people around you will disappear. So can it be a lonely road? Yeah, but that's just how it is. I've been on this lonely road for quite a while. I've actually always been lonely. I've always been kind of like on my own island even as a kid, so technically I'm just used to it. I don't mind it, and it gives me a lot of freedom. It gives me a lot of freedom just to think for myself. I've said in previous videos, you know, if I had a girlfriend or a wife or something whispering in my ear, oh, you shouldn't post that, you shouldn't post that, I wouldn't be able to post my real, authentic thoughts. You know, being single, being solo, there's absolutely no reason to not post what I want to post because there is nobody telling me what to do. It's fucking fantastic. It's freedom, baby. It's freedom. Number 3, people think we're in a fucking Disney movie. Yup. People think we're in a fucking Disney movie where there's a good guy and a bad guy, and the good guy always prevails, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's a climax and a pre-max and a whatever. Whatever the sequence of a fucking movie is, that's what people think like, unfortunately. Because unfortunately, in the 21st century here, we were raised on movies. We did not go through a rite of passage, right? When you grow up in a tribe, or you grow up back in the 19th or 18th centuries, there's no movies, right? So you learn through the adults around you. You learn through the tribe. You learn through other children. And that's purely all you're learning through. You learn how to contribute to your tribe, to your community. And that's pretty much it. But here we have this idea of, we have very skewed ideas, unfortunately, because of entertainment, because of technology, and especially how our entertainment is even designed. Because you can even go back to our parents, you know, the boomers. They had very old movies to watch, obviously, but their movies were much more conservative. Their movies were much more straightforward. Like, yeah, there's a good guy and a bad guy, but I don't know, they weren't quite as dreamy. They weren't quite as realistic, right? They're watching movies in black and white. It's pure entertainment. Not much to take away from it. You can actually pretty much separate yourself from that movie fairly easily, especially if it's in black and white or low quality. These days, movies are so realistic. Even when we were growing up, the movies were realistic enough, right, where we could actually put ourselves in the movie. And the writing got better, the effects got better, everything just got better year over year over year, to the point where it's like, you can get addicted to movies. To the point where you don't even want to live in reality. You just want to live in movies or TV shows. And so we get this idea of life through these dramatic writings in movies and in TV shows. I mean, every single person my age I know is addicted to some sort of a TV series. So we have these ideas that the sequence of a movie or the sequence of a TV show is exactly how life is. And that is not fucking true. Life is much darker. I laugh because, I would think that you wouldn't expect me to say that. You know, because we like to believe, oh, that movie was really disturbing. You know, I'm a huge horror movie fan. So sometimes I'm like, wow, that movie was really disturbing. And then I think to myself, you know, that's probably happening. It's probably actually happening in the world somewhere. Like the movie Hostel. You ever seen that movie? It's a movie about rich fucking billionaires who rent out a space in Europe somewhere, and the hostel owners are part of that organization, and they kidnap the people who stay in the hostels, and the billionaires torture them for fun. And, like, in my mind, I'm like, wow, that's really realistic. That's disturbingly realistic. Wow. But, like, I feel like in other people's minds, they're like, oh, wow, that was such a horrible horror movie. I'm so glad that that's not real. It's real, honey. Oh, it's real. It's somewhere. That's literally happening somewhere on this planet right now. No joke. So reality is much darker than movies. In fact, I would say reality is actually closer to horror movies than we actually want to admit. Because horror movies actually can be more realistic. Because a lot of the time there is no generic movie sequence for a horror movie. A lot of the times it is just, you know, sometimes it starts off real good and then it just goes downhill. And then it just keeps going further and further and further. An example of a movie like that would be Hereditary. The truth of the movie just keeps getting darker and darker and darker. There's no hero. There's no protagonist. There's even no enemy. Like, there's nobody to blame in the movie, right? And that's what kind of makes it so scary. It's like you don't even know who to blame. You don't even know who... It's like you are fighting an invisible monster. And that's kind of how reality is. You're fighting this invisible monster all the time. The truth of reality is that, yes, pedophilic billionaires run the world. And I'm sorry to say, but nobody's going to stop them. Nobody's out there trying to stop them, and even if they do, they'll just get killed. It's going to go on and on and on. You think there's one pedophile ring? It's like mice. If you find one, you know that there's a million more. Seriously. And I would even go as far to say that even some people who are fighting the good fight are even part of it, right? I think there was like something like, Ashton Kutcher was like fighting like pedophile rings, but then it came out that he was actually part of one of them or something. All right, alleged. I don't want to say that he is. I'll have to look into that because something came out and it was very disappointing about that because I was like, oh wow, a celebrity actually doing something good. And then it turned out he was actually doing something bad. It might not have had to do with pedophile stuff, but it might have had to do with like he was abusing his girlfriend or something. I don't know, something like that. It was like discovered that he was doing something dirty on the side, you know. Maybe not with kids, but something else. There's no true hero, right? Everything in life comes with a price. Nothing is truly good. Unfortunately. That's the truth of life. There's no hero coming to save us all. You are not the hero. I am not the hero. Nobody is the hero. We're just all here kind of living our little tiny selfish lives, and then we die. And then we get forgotten. That's like the truth of life. And nobody wants to think that way. Nobody wants to think that way. But I'm telling you, honey, the sooner you accept that about life, the better your life will be. It actually kind of makes me relieved at times, you know? Not like I don't feel bad for people who are being tortured on a daily basis somewhere, maybe in Antarctica somewhere, but more so it relieves me of feeling like I constantly have to be an activist for something. I constantly have to be trying to change the world and save the world, because there's nothing to change, there's nothing to save. The only thing I can say for you to do if you want to play this hero type of bullshit is look out for people who need help in the grocery store. Always be scanning for maybe that little old lady that needs help. Now, I live in an area where there's lots of old people, and these old people are very fragile and frail, and a lot of the times I'll just find one who's struggling, doing something, and I'll help them. And that's what I do in my own little world. You can volunteer, you can, actually, don't donate to a charity, you don't know where that money's going. I'd say volunteer your physical being and go volunteer at an animal shelter, at a cancer hospital, or even like volunteer cleaning up forests or something, you know? That's how you can be a hero in your community. This protesting bullshit is, you're not doing anything. Sorry. You're just not doing anything. And if anything, you're putting your life in danger, and then you are then in turn endangering other people. You're endangering yourself. And then if you get killed, your family's going to be sad. So how's that good? How's that good for other people, right? Renee Good, Alex Preddy. The only impact they've left on this planet is a sad family, unfortunately. Sad people left behind. They didn't save anything. They didn't change anything. Their life, the life they gave was in vain, unfortunately. That's my opinion. Life is dark. What do you want me to say? It's just dark. There is no good, happy ending to any of this. I always say, like, we all think we're all gonna die quiet, asleep in our own little cozy beds. No, 98% of us are gonna die tragically, uncomfortably, near tortured. Sorry. 98% of us are gonna die from some horrific disease or in some horrific accident. And all we can hope is that it's quick. Or all we can hope is that if it's slow, hopefully I'll just be delirious enough where I don't really notice it's there, or hopefully I'll be in enough pain that I'll just hope for death. Just enjoy your life now, honey, because if you're young and you're sprung, you still have life to enjoy. So try to enjoy it now while you can. That's all I have to say. There's no hero. Nobody's coming to save us. Poor David Icke. He sacrificed a lot of himself to put the truth out into society, and now he's ostracized from society, essentially. So don't be too much of a hero, but we do need David Icke. We do. People aren't necessarily inherently stupid, but there are things that make people stupid, okay? Our algorithms we get stuck inside of, the food that we're eating, our sedentary lifestyles, our easy lifestyles. In the USA, our lives are fairly easy here. And in some other first world countries, their lives are fairly easy as well. And unfortunately, that does make people stupid. And not even mentioning this, the education system was terrible from the start, but even today, it's gotten so bad. I think one of the schools that said only 26% of students know how to read right now. One of the elementary schools. And the reason that I read about that was because that particular elementary school went out and protested. These little tiny babies went out and did a anti-ICE protest in a dangerous city. How disgusting is that? The education system was fucked, but now it's even more fucked because now we have stupid people teaching our children. That's unfortunate, right? So no, people are not inherently stupid. I'm not calling everybody stupid, but your actions, your habits, what you eat, what you choose to consume media-wise, that is what makes people fucking stupid. It's like the movie WALL-E or the movie Idiocracy. I'm talking a lot about movies today. Speaking of everybody thinks everything's a movie, movies definitely do reflect reality a lot of the time. And yeah, those are two very good movies to point out where people just became stupid. People became pointless invalids. I mean, you can even point out the Matrix, where the robot thought, the machinery thought humans were so dumb and useless, they just decided to use us as a battery. But that's just how it is, you know? If you want to be smart, you can be smart. You have to do the work. You have to watch the media that you consume. You have to watch the food that you consume. You have to stay moving. You have to move your body. Get into nature. Travel the world. Learn something. Read a lot of books. Have diversity of thought. Don't just read about things that you agree with. Read about things you disagree with. Read about things that you've never even heard of before. Diversity of thought. You know, diversify your, oh God. My knee. It got my knee. Oh, my knee hurts so bad. Well, that's what I get for dancing on the ice. Yeah, diversify your financial portfolio, but also diversify your library as I limp across the ice now. Oh. Wow. There's creepy noises happening under the ice. Okay. Getting off the ice now. There's probably multiple reasons to get off that ice. Anyway. Yeah, this is why people can't swallow hard truths. But the faster you can swallow hard truths, the better your life will be. Because then the faster you realize that everything's meaningless. And things only have meaning because we assign them. We assign it meaning. So, give your life meaning today. And assign the meaning of your life today. I'm in a very happy, giggly mood. If you like what you see on this channel, like, comment, share, and subscribe, as per usual. And if I can think of anything else to say, I will stop my camera yet again and record. But for now, I cannot think of anything else to say. So, I will see you in the next video. Stay smart.